Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of What Drives You. I'm your co-host Stan Windhorn, and with me, as always, my good buddy and co-host Carl Bauer. Carl,
Hello, Stanley, and we're going to have a fun episode today, our 50th episode. Can you believe it?
it's hard to believe that we made it to 50, but I know we have an ironic guest for our 50th episode. I think I've heard you call him the 50 Mile Man. So why don't you introduce our guest?
Sure, I'm excited to do. So, Keith Bellof is a dear friend of ours. Our family known him for many, many years, and he just recently completed for World Vision a 50, how many mile?
56.
56-mile one-day adventure in South Africa. So, Stan, I don't know how many people you know in your life that have run a marathon and completed it. Just one. And then a few weeks ago, in preparation for this, Keith ran back to back Saturday, Sunday, back the next week, Saturday, Sunday, over 26. Like, that's what blew me away why I wanted him on the show, because I saw him. He got out of his car coming to our house for dinner, and he looked like an old man, which is not normally the spring of his step, but he had just completed one of the marathons in that first weekend. So welcome, Keith.
Wow.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here.
So Keith is a high school teacher. My wife and I always joke if we could have Keith as a teacher when we were in high school, how much better we'd have enjoyed it and what better grades we would have gotten. But Keith has really transformed himself in the last 10 years from being kind of I don't want it to sound bad, Keith, but like a watcher of athletic life into like a machine when it comes to marathons. So Keith, how did that come about, number one, and how many marathons have you run to date?
All right. Yeah, I often refer to myself as a recovering fat guy. Kind of all my life growing up, I was kind of the chubby kid, turned into the chubby adult. And then, never like crazy heavy, but just always had a few extra pounds. Um, Kids came along, started going through grad school, which is a normal part of the educator life. And all of a sudden I realized, wow, I'm a lot heavier than I need to be. So a buddy of mine and I started just going to the Y every morning, working out, doing treadmill, elliptical, swim, bike, um, and, dropped a bunch of pounds and felt a lot healthier. And then we were sitting in church one Sunday, and some guys from Team World Vision, which is a fundraising arm of World Vision, came and talked about all the great things that World Vision is doing. And if we wanted to help out, we could run the Chicago Marathon and raise money for World Vision. I was thinking to myself, that sounds really cool, but at the time we had, really little kids, and I thought there's no way I could, devote that much time and take it that much time away from my family. But then my wife leaned over and looked at me and said, "You would love that. You should do that." That was in 2009, and I really haven't looked back since. So I've been running marathons since 2009. To date, it's hard to, I guess I don't even know. I was right at 29, I think. Yeah, 29 last October when I ran the Chicago Marathon. And then in preparation for this crazy race that I just ran, there were 9 marathon or greater distances that I had trained for. So, only 2 of them were official, like get a medal, sign up, but all of them were at least 26 or more miles. So I guess I'm at, well, plus this one, let's call it 40.
Wow.
That's crazy. Hey, Keith, so you just said that you did 50 some miles in South Africa. Was that like 2 marathons or is it one long race or how did that work?
Yeah, so the race is called the Comrades Marathon. It's titled the oldest and the longest running, or I guess the oldest, the longest running, and the largest marathon. And I mean, it would actually be an ultra marathon. They just call it a marathon. So it's 56 miles from one town called Pietermaritzburg in South Africa to another town called Durban, which is right on the coast of the Indian Ocean. And you do it all in one day. You start at 6 o'clock in the morning. And if you don't get done by 6 o'clock at night, they actually don't give you a medal. So You have a 12-hour window to finish it in, and yeah, that's the race. So Comrades Marathon, and actually every other year it switches direction. So one year it goes from Pietermaritzburg to Durban, then the next year it goes back from Durban to Pietermaritzburg. One year is called the downhill year, which is what I ran, and then the other year is called the uphill year. But I guess the uphill year is just as many hills as the downhill because it just goes. They call it the land of 1,000 hills, and they aren't kidding, right? They're all there.
I don't mean to sound naive here, but I would think that most people that I've ever seen run a marathon, by the time they're done with the marathon, they're exhausted. How do you do basically two marathons at one time in 12 hours? I mean, that's just got to be just an incredible amount of endurance.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously the biggest thing that I had going for me was my training. So the Team World Vision gave us a training plan, and I guess I'm a little OCD when it comes to training plans. So I just followed it to the T. I actually was kind of ridiculed by the guy that gave me the plan. He's like, nobody ever does that. I don't know why you would do so many miles. And I'm like, well, you gave me the plan. I don't know what you'd expect. But the key to that would be the key to finishing is to realize you can't run a marathon pace for 2+ marathons, right? You got to slow yourself down. And I had to discipline myself to actually start doing a run walk. So I'd run, 3 miles or so, and then walk for a minute or so and let my heart rate come down and then pick it back up again. On the second half of this race, pretty much any uphill, I just walked it because I knew that the last 30 kilometers were all downhill and you had to save yourself because running downhill is actually not a whole lot easier than running uphill. It can really tear you up.
It's harder on my knees. I don't have great knees. In fact, I had them replaced a couple of years ago, but still going downhill is way harder on my knees than going uphill. So I'm sure it's similar.
For sure. Yep. Yep. Your quads and your calves, and then obviously your knees definitely tell you about it the next day.
Cool.
And what was your final time?
So my finishing time was 9 hours and 54 minutes.
So you had a couple hour cushion there. You're good to go.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which
You
I
got
mean,
your medal.
I was really proud of. I mean, that was I was hoping between the 9 and 10 hour window. It put me in the top 30% of my age group. So, pretty happy with that for my first time around.
Yeah. I like, so Stan, just so you're aware, Keith as a teacher, like some of these practice marathons he showed us, leading up to this 56 miler. I don't know if it was your kids or your students or whatever kind of made these fake little, not well, real, but kind of like Stan's really big in arts and crafts. So they made him medals for these like mysterious private little practice marathons. So tell us, Keith, about how those came about.
Yeah, so I was training with, well, on some of the longer marathons, I trained with my pastor and friend, Sean Williams. And we were running our first marathon together on Good Friday. And we were running it from a local high school in as many hills as we could find. And so when we finished, I surprised him by having a Good Friday marathon medal. So it was the Good Friday Marathon, 2025. And it was just a plastic medal that I had 3D printed on one of the 3D printers at school that, I added a ribbon and just kind of made it fun. And we had planned to also run another one the following weekend together. And he said, well, I'm not going to run a marathon with you unless there's another medal. So I work in the career technical education area. So I actually tapped into a couple kids who were doing an internship in the graphic arts program and just said, hey, running this marathon, I need a medal. What can you guys come up with? And they designed this tennis shoe with a couple sayings on it and the outline of the Comrades Marathon course. And, just they actually laser cut that one and then, engraved it with the laser. So it was pretty cool. But, it's a fun way to get the kids involved, but also have a medal.
So since finishing that, I know it's summer break, so probably a lot of your students you haven't seen or run into, but what's the response you're getting like on social media or just text? And because I mean, to have an old guy outrun all these kids and do this major accomplishments have to be pretty cool and get some crazy comments from the kids, students.
Yeah. So I don't, I mean, one of my rules as a teacher is I don't let students follow me until after they graduate, just to keep a good separation, you know. So I haven't heard a lot of feedback from students, but tons of my teacher friends and just close friends and family. You know, as soon as I finished the race, my phone started blowing up with all sorts of congratulations. And then I posted a quick video that I made at the end, and just, I mean, the comments just were pouring in with congratulations and, you know, how just overwhelmed they were with me completing a task like that.
So let's go back. 2009, how old were you when you started becoming this elite?
35.
Okay, so
Yeah.
35.
So I started running when I was 35, right?
Okay. So 35 now, Stan, there's still hope for you, I think is what I'm trying to say.
Whoa.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know about with the broken knees or the bionic knees, but there's hope for people.
Maybe not me, but for people.
For people.
Gotcha.
For
Gotcha.
people.
I'm with you.
So
I'm with you.
the part of why this was cool, and that obviously the pun on 50 episodes and 50 miles, but the really amazing thing, Stan, is that you know, World Vision, Keith was alongside his uh, uh, achievements in running and athletics. They sponsored all these kids for clean water. So Keith, how many kids did you end up sponsoring for that particular event? And across these many years, how many kids have you sponsored for clean water?
So for this event alone, I was able to get 23 kids sponsored through World Vision. And I actually, the second half of the trip, we actually went up to Ethiopia and I got to meet, I think 5 of those kids. So, which was really awesome. One of them was one that our family has started sponsoring as well. So like I said, 23 for this race. A lot of my races are also like they're cash donations. And so they, you know, they kind of have equated, World Vision has equated a way to, or come up with a way to equate what a sponsorship is worth cash wise. So I guess I don't know the total number of kids that I've gotten sponsored. Probably closer to 30, but the grand total of how much money I've been able to raise is right around $225,000.
Wait, 225,000?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You
So
almost
I mean, yeah, it's amazing, and you know, I give all the credit to my donors, because you know I just tell my friends and family that I'm doing these crazy things, like you know I ran an all-day marathon one day, and I've run a Chicago Marathon a bunch of times, but you know my friends and family have really come around it and realized what an impact a few dollars can make in a child's life. And then I got to see that impact when we were there in Ethiopia, which was amazing.
Hey,
yeah,
Keith, may I ask? I'm not, I understand that this is a good clause that has something to do with clean water, but how does that actually work? How does a donation turn into clean water for a kid?
Sure. So World Vision is one of the largest, or the largest non-governmental organization that brings clean water to areas that are without. So World Vision will go to an area and find an area that's lacking clean water, and then develop a plan with the kind of the village leaders. That's going to be the best plan to get clean water to that village. And so, like simple cash donations through their, you know, actuaries and, you know, people a lot smarter than myself, they have figured out that $50 brings clean water to one kid for life. So, you know, a $50 donation, obviously paired up with a bunch of other people's $50 donations, will then bring clean water into an area, which will then provide water for whatever X divided by 50
Yeah.
number of people.
So is it like they bring in filtering systems or is it more like trucking in the clean water or is it a combination depending on the situation?
So it's a sustainable source. So trucking in, it really wouldn't be that might be an emergency situation, but
Yeah.
they really go in and find the best method possible for that area. So it might be a borehole well where they just dig a well and then provide clean water to that area. It might be tapping into a water source nearby. The village that I got to visit, they're actually like 2 weeks away from getting clean water. All they need to do is finish a pipeline for about another maybe 300 yards, and then they've got the water source all set up. But they were able to tap into a clean water source that was about, I think, 3 kilometers away. So they had just a reservoir that was 3 kilometers away that they're able to then divert in other areas. Sometimes it's damming a river. Sometimes it's a slow water filter that will just, they take dirty water and then create a filtering system. But what the water engineers do is they work with the area and figure out what's going to be the best and the most sustainable source for clean water for the villagers for as long as possible. And then they not only bring in the clean water, but they teach the people how to use that, or how to maintain and how to keep that water source updated, so that eventually they can leave the area and then the people can be in charge of their own water. And, instead of being a handout, it's more of a hand up.
Do
I
you
love that
keep,
saying, by the way.
yeah.
Go
And
ahead,
there's a
Carl.
ton of data around this. So Keith, I don't want to go too hog wild in the research behind it, but Stan, a lot of what World Vision does when they supply this water, it takes this burden off the, Keith, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of the mothers and a lot of the kids. So then all this clean water translates into less time schlepping water from here to there, and then more time in healthcare, education, food production, all this other stuff. So Keith, maybe you can touch on just kind of the elevator spiel on that.
Sure, you're 100% correct. The women and the children have to do the majority of the water fetching, if you will. And most times, the dirty water sources are sometimes 3 to 5 kilometers away from where the people live. So the area that we visited, we actually visited 2 areas, but one area, the ladies were saying that it was an hour round trip. So they had to walk, get dirty water, come back, and that process took an hour. And they probably had to do that twice a day. Not only is it just taking time away from their day, but there's also, young girls are being either abused or stolen, or I guess kidnapped or brought into different trades because they just have, there isn't a way to defend themselves. So now they're, bringing this clean water up near close to their area. It takes away from that long trip that they have to take, which allows kids to go to school. It gives them access to, bathroom facilities. Another project that World Vision does is they teach kids the importance of washing hands and, cleaning up after themselves and, using latrines instead of openly defecating on the ground wherever. So it starts with clean water, but it turns into a whole new life for not only the women and children, but obviously then the men that are part of that village as well.
Yeah, the domino effect on it is just unbelievable. So initially when I heard about it, I was like, clean water, but when you learn about the domino and how it just changes the lives of these kids, it's pretty unbelievable. So that's an amazing job of raising, one, the dedication to a sport that you had till 2009 you didn't really care about, but then coupling it with this passion project, which you're already giving back because you're an amazing teacher. Stan, and we'll touch on this too. Keith, when we first met him, was a physics teacher, right? Physics.
Yep.
So
Yep.
he had a band of kids that just we rolled belly laughed all the time. He was in charge of the nerd herd that he called them, but it was actually the math. What was their actual official name?
So that was the Science Olympiad team. So yeah, I was
Science
the coach of the Science Olympiad team, and we had a group of, I think it was about 35 kids that we would compete, at a couple different competitions, and we're actually fortunate enough to make it to nationals several years, and we would go on an adventure with a bunch of kids.
That's cool.
So
Hey, I've got another question about New World. It seems like my memory was like Jimmy Carter was very involved, I think, in doing some kind of water programs. Have I got that right? Is it the same, or do you know anything about that?
he
I'm
was
not
Habitat
sure.
for
I
Humanity, I
know
think.
Jimmy Carter did Habitat for Humanity.
Yeah.
Okay.
He may have been involved with World Vision as well.
Yeah, it's somebody I'm thinking of along that stature got really, really involved in the clean water thing. So I'll have to maybe I'll Google it before we're done. But okay.
Yeah, there's the big ones kind of are the Habitat, that was Jimmy Carter's thing. Compassion International is another big one. They do more like child sponsorship. Yes, clean water is part of that, but it's child sponsorship, and then World Vision is the biggest. I mean, I know Compassion's budget's like $1 billion. I don't even know what World Vision's is, Keith. It's
I don't,
multi-billions.
yeah, I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's a big one.
So it sounds like you're helping people in pretty remote, sort of jungle-y type of areas. Is that where you're doing the run too?
So the run was all on city streets in South Africa. So it wasn't jungle, it wasn't remote. There was, lots and lots of clean water along the road, which was kind of ironic since that's what we were running for. But no, definitely a different area.
Okay.
You know, I, I don't guess I don't even know, World Vision works where the need is. And I don't know if South Africa is an area where there's definitely need.
Gotcha.
We got to see the area up in Ethiopia, which there's definitely a lot more need up there.
I was just picturing like, a lion chasing you, that's how you got through it so fast. I don't, what do I know?
Right. I mean, I had a lot of my friends ask me if I was going to have to run from wildlife, and I said, well, if I do, I don't need to be faster than them. I just need to be faster than the other guy, and as long as I can outrun him, I'm good.
Yeah,
And the
there you go.
volunteers, Stan, that would have been you with your busted knees pouring out
Oh
water
yeah.
for the
I'd be
runners.
a nice slow moving target.
Oh, Keith. So I know that what year is this of you being a high school teacher? And I know you just made a shift. So maybe your brain has turned to mush now because you were doing all the smart kids and now you're just doing the tech kids and the all that stuff. But how long you been teaching high school?
So I just completed my 29th year teaching. And yeah, I mean, you know, kids are kids is what I see. So, kids who excel at school and kids who struggle, they're all just kids, and they learn differently maybe, but they all have a great capacity to learn.
So, and I wasn't going to touch on this, but you brought up a great point because Stan and I are we've got some co-hosts, Jane, who a friend Lindsay. So we've got kind of these different generations of co-hosts and probably viewers, I would hope. But you've now had 3 decades of students virtually. Decade number one, no cell phones or very limited. Decade number two, cell phones, maybe not smartphones. Decade number three, COVID, smartphones, smartwatch, Tell us about the difference. I know you just said kids are kids, but kind of what have you seen different, and how does what drives you to keep going back? Because I know a bunch of teachers who said, I'm done, I'm out, this COVID thing, these kids are nuts, and they bolted, and you're still going. So fill us in on how that keeps you motivated.
Sure. So definitely a difference when cell phones came around, especially when smartphones and the, ultra connectedness of, kids and connected to grades and connected to their parents and connected to other people. Um, there's obviously, we all know there's good about cell phones, but there's also like, sometimes they just can be a big, a big sore spot because you just can't get kids off of them. Recently, our school has just put in cell phone caddies. So at the beginning of class, kids are supposed to dock their phones in these caddies, and then that actually I've seen a lot better engagement. Kids are able to talk to each other, communicate with me. But I think I guess to answer your question of what keeps me coming back is, like I said, kids are kids and people are people. spend actually more of my day now working with adults because I'm gone from teaching to administration. Um, but I do teach, I still do teach a class. And so I get, get my chance to interact with kids. But I think I've always had a passion for just helping people and helping them succeed. And whether it's kids with cell phones or whether it's kids, post-COVID, pre-COVID, or same with adults, um, just the ability to know that when I go in, I can hopefully make a difference and then leave at the end of the day knowing that, somebody's life is maybe a little better because I came to work that day, is pretty much what gets me up and gets me going the next day.
Yeah. I think we've all had a good teacher at some point. To have a cool, fun, amazing male teacher is pretty darn rare. So finish strong, my man, because it's pretty rare. I had one in high school and one in college that were actually a couple in college, but one in high school that was just, I think I told you about him, Stan. His name was Doug Cornelli. He was a basketball player, and he was just an amazing guy. He's passed on, but yeah, you're doing a rare thing, Keith. So keep up the good work.
Thanks.
All right, we're going to jump to our, just to be respectful of time, and thank you again so much for joining us on our 50th episode, unbelievably. So we're going to talk about cars, because that's kind of how this podcast or YouTube channel started, was about cars, and then we've shifted it to just kind of what drives you in life, which you've shared so transparently and honestly. So what was your first car, Keith?
My first car was a 1980 Chevette, golden Chevette with it was 4-speed, had a moonroof. It was beautiful. Lasted me, I think, maybe 13 months. And then everything just started falling apart. But it was a great first car.
My dad got a Chevette, and this is right. It was like the first car I kind of got to drive. It wasn't mine, but I got to drive it. But I just remember going to school and telling everybody my dad just got a brand new vet, and they'd be like, "Your dad got a Corvette?" And I'm like, "Nope, a Chevette."
Well, I had the same thing. Told somebody, for junior prom, I borrowed my buddy's Fiero. And someone goes, "Really? What kind of car do you drive?" I'm like, "Well, I drive a vet." And they're like, "What? You traded a vet for a Fiero?" I'm like, "Well, it was a Chevette." So same thing. But I mean, that was rear wheel drive. So when it was snowing outside, I could just fishtail that thing all the way down the road. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
And you're both still here, because wasn't that the car that if you got rear-ended it blew up, or was that a
No,
Pinto?
that was the Pinto. That was the second car I drove that my dad had. No, that was the Ford Pinto.
Got it. All right. So what was your favorite car that you
My
owned?
favorite car. So when I first got my teaching job, so this was, almost 30 years ago, I got a little S10 Chevy pickup. Again, manual transmission, had a little cap on back, but it was just a, fun truck to drive. It was 4-wheel drive, and although I didn't need to use 4-wheel drive too often around here, kind of a fun novelty to have. And yeah, it's just, a fun first real car, I guess, if you will.
Here's the big question though. Was it a 4-cylinder or 6-cylinder?
It was a no, it was a 6-cylinder. Yep.
Probably a little giddy up for a
Yep.
little
Yeah.
light body. Yeah, those were
Oh,
fun.
yeah.
And then what is your dream car?
I think always since, or not, well, whatever. Since I've been a little guy, I've always kind of had my eye on like a Porsche 911 or 924, just a nice coupe, little sports car. Don't know if I'd actually enjoy driving it for the long run, but just to have one to use for a little while would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, a lot of guests
Nice.
have shared that, Keith. And most, I just think Porsches are just a work of art. They look like they're moving when they're just sitting there. They're one of the rare cars that do that, to me anyway.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, the
Um,
dealership that's right near your house, I go in and get coffee because we bought a Honda Odyssey from, but you walk through all the Porsches there and it's just like, wow,
oh
these things just look fancy. Just,
yeah,
I try not to even get close to them because I don't want to even get, touch them.
Yep, yep, they're fancy. On a more serious ending note, so we have this thing that we've coined the wow question, words of wisdom, and really it's a way to share, what do you wish someone would have told you earlier on in life, with the 18-year-old Keith, or your kids, maybe something, just doesn't have to be profound. I think, Stan, yours was just get started. We've had them as simple: be humble, be nice. We've had a whole bunch of different smatterings, but what would you tell young Keith to help him, get started, that we could share out on the web?
Sure. I think, when you posed that question to me earlier, the first thing that came to mind was to don't be afraid to take chances. When an opportunity comes your way, don't be afraid to grab it, because you never know what's gonna come of it. Who knew 17 years ago when I said yes to running a marathon that, you know, 17 years later I'd be finishing my 40th with a 56-mile race. And through the help of all my friends, bringing clean water to just thousands and thousands of kids. So, I know later in my life I've taken that advice, but I think maybe as a younger guy, I probably was a little bit more hesitant.
Yeah, looking back, you're like, all right, that seems like a long time ago, but 35 is not young, but it's not old compared to where we're at now in this, advanced season of life, more advanced season of life. So yeah, and Stan, the amazing thing with Keith, because I asked him about this when they were over for dinner, is like, what about injuries? And he's been pretty amazingly injury free. Which, if you think about that, after 50 marathons
Oh
and
yeah.
however many years, that's unbelievable. So good on you.
Yep.
Yep. Well,
Awesome
I
job.
attribute that to taking the first 35 years off, you know.
You were
That could
saving it
be.
up.
You're like a
Exactly.
car. You're low mileage, Keith. You were like a classic.
There we go.
Kept the miles up. Well, thank you so much, Keith, for joining us on our 50th episode, and enjoy the rest of your summer. I know it goes fast when you're a teacher, but I know you've taken some time off the wheels too, so that's a good thing. But excited to see you in the Chicago Marathon again this year, hopefully.
Yeah,
Awesome. Well, thanks
Keith,
for having
really
me on.
appreciate it. Hey, before we go though, could you maybe leave some information for our viewers if they wanted to contribute
Oh yeah.
to the organization
Sure. So if anyone
or,
wants to
or sponsor you?
contribute, yeah, I mean, I can,
Yeah.
well, if you go to teamworldvision.org, uh, there's a donor search or a runner search up in the upper right-hand corner, and you can just type in Bellof and I'll come up. I mean, I can shoot you guys my full link if you want, if we put it, I don't know if you put it in comments or whatever, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's the easiest way is to go to Team World.
Teamworldvision.org.
Yep.
Cool.
And then up in the upper right, there's a runner search or a fundraiser search, and there it is.
Yeah, and if you haven't heard of World Vision and you Google that once we're done with this episode, I mean, it's a big, and so there's thousands of runners. And the other cool thing, not to belabor this, is the community that has been established. When you look at the pictures, I mean, it's not just Keith doing this. There's thousands of World Vision runners, I think, around the globe, right, that are helping sponsor these kids in this clean water. So it's an amazing organization.
Yeah,
Super
you got
cool.
it. It's amazing. The more I get to know about it, the more I love it.
Cool, man. Well, say hi to the missus and the three beautiful ladies.
All right, I will.
Have a great night.
Thanks.
Appreciate you, Keith. See you, Carl.
Take care, guys. Bye.